To our first ordinary meeting, or as Councillor Edwina pointed out yesterday, they're very rarely are they ordinary meetings. However, today is our first statutory meeting for 2025, and a very warm welcome to everyone. I've heard it mentioned a few times that 2025 is the year to thrive, so not a bad way to kick off the year with that sort of a tagline, I would suggest to you. And there's been quite a lot happening over the break as well as we get set for 2025, and some strong advocacy work, big decisions for this council to make, particularly around the first half of this calendar year. And I personally am very much looking forward to working with all of you to make sure that we are doing the best we can each and every day and making the decisions in the best interest in all of the community. So today the meeting is obviously open to the public and is live streamed. Can I acknowledge all councillors, also the acting CEO Nick Hauser, our general managers that are in the room with us, and those staff as well, and those that are watching online. Thank you very much for your attendance today. In particular, I'd like to welcome those that are in the room with us today, of which we'll hear from a deputation and not too far away. We also have our staff, newly inducted staff from our customer service branch, so a very warm welcome to you. And thank you for choosing Toowoomba Regional Council as your place of employment. We very much value the fact that we strive and maintain to be an employer of choice, and we're very pleased that you're here and part of that as well. So thank you. Can I begin by acknowledging the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse these lands we meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, the Guyabal, Jarrawa and Bigabal peoples, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the knowledge, rich traditions and bold ambitions of Australia's First Peoples. Also acknowledge Deanne and Alex. Alex's first meeting here today. Alex, thank you very much for being part of the team in the council business. Councillors will get to know you as well as we not only get through today's meeting, but subsequent as well. So a very warm welcome to you. Councillors, an award was received by Toowoomba Regional Council late last year, and this is our first opportunity to acknowledge this, and it gives us a great chance to kick the year off with a very strong values moment, because it does reflect our tagline of rich traditions, bold ambitions. The award is called the Green Flag. I'll give you just a very quick summary of what the Green Flag Award is. It is indeed a prestigious recognition that honours parks and green spaces, fulfilling internationally established criteria for excellence in planning, maintenance and community connection. Achieving this award signifies that a park not only meets high standards of upkeep, but also plays a vital role in the community it serves. Holding a green flag highlights the significance of these green spaces. It showcases the dedication, expertise and technical skill of the operations team, who work tirelessly to provide environments that cater to the well-being of the community. This accolade emphasises the value of well-maintained parks and their crucial contribution to enhancing the quality of life for all who enjoy them. The Green Flag Award is a not-for-profit international accreditation program that recognises and rewards well-managed parks and green spaces. And today the Green Flag Award proudly flies above 17 countries around the world in around 2,500 parks. So at the end of last year, Toowoomba Regional Council, and in particular Queen's Park, was awarded the Green Flag Award, which, as I said from the start, recognises our tagline of rich traditions, because the forebears who decided to have that as a park also need to be recognised in this Green Flag Award, and of course to the current day staff as well for what they do. And today we're very pleased to welcome a few of the team here today. We've got Matt Schick, Acting Coordinator, and Matt will be known to many of you. Tim Schultz, who's on the right-hand side or left-hand side to Matt as he's facing us, and we're facing him, he's on the right side. And Ronnie Thompson. Ron will be well known to many of you. He's well regarded, well liked, and a great worker for Toowoomba Regional Council, and has been for many, many years, Ron. So fantastic to have you in here today with us as well. And Marty Nissen, who is the acting manager of Parks and Rec at the moment. So thank you very much to you. And I know you're only an element or a small snapshot of the many people who work in the park and have done over so many decades. So if I could ask you all to come forward, or Marty, in your acting role, maybe you nominate. There you go. And here's the flag. In fact, I was only walking through Queen's Park yesterday evening as... Ronnie, you'll feel free to stay, Ron. You're right, mate. You never know, you're quite valuable in here. It's interesting, you know, and many of us do walk through the park regularly, and even yesterday evening, the amount of people that were walking through the park is extraordinary, and it certainly does highlight our multicultural community when you walk through the park and see so many nationalities. Even now, it's just a beautiful space. Families gathered, playing on the play equipment. It's amazing. Brilliant. So well done to the team. It's a great effort. So, councillors, we then move to the first item of business, which is the reception of deputation or delegations by appointment. Now, Chris, I haven't seen Shane here. Is Shane?
I'm afraid we're without Shane today, but you've got Lana instead.
Thank you, Lana. Lana's from the Pitchworth Land Care. That's right. Lana, lovely to have you here, Lana. Thank you very much. So Chris's substantive role as the project manager of the Toowoomba Region Koala Habitat Project. Chris Mybush. Welcome to you, Chris. So Chris, James will just give you a bit of a quick lesson onto that one. And Lana, thank you very much for coming along and supporting as well.
And then
Chris, welcome.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for the opportunity of addressing you today. As you may recall, we arise out of, the Toowoomba Region Koala Count arises out of an activity formed by Save Mount Lofty Group that were involved in the saving the old rifle range site at Mount Lofty due to the risks of bushfire on that escarpment property, but also the existence of koala habitat there. And it was out in 2017, I'm proud to say, this is the first time that I ever saw a koala in the wild. So I'd ask councillors, can you put your hand up if you have seen a koala in the wild? Have you seen a koala in the wild in the last 6 months? Have you seen a koala in the wild in the last week? Well, I'll join that too. I haven't. I've been elsewhere in that period. But anyway, it's been a wonderful opportunity to give Save Mount Lofty a real focus. And so changing the slides. Yeah, so anyway, our community group that... There we go. I can just give you a nod when... Yeah, so as you may well recall, our community group here from 2020, and fortunately we've now been relieved of our onerous duties with DHA. We now have Inland Rail owning the rifle range property, but that's for another day to discuss that. And as part of our koala activities at that time, we had a change.org petition that received, we thought, only 100,000 signatures in support of saving Toowoomba's koalas, but in fact we finally achieved 144,000 signatures, of which we're advised by the platform 30% were from our immediate region. So that's a significant number there. But anyway, from that interest in koalas, we have then moved to seek Commonwealth Government funding, which we received about this time last year, to run the Toowoomba Region Koala Habitat Project. And that's been a wonderful project involving Lana from Pittsworth Landcare and other groups across the Downs, all volunteers, but with Commonwealth Government funding to do certain activities. Back in 2021 was our first koala count, and that koala count came as a result of learning of the Logan City Council were doing a koala count, and I thought if they could do it, then why aren't we? So I unashamedly copied everything they're doing, and I don't want to have a tally up there, but we beat them. In the first year, we had 56 observations from a small group of observers. And then 22, we put in a big effort and we increased that observation to 189 number in the month of November in 22. So that involves you going out into the field with a smartphone and with probably a sore neck after a few minutes and looking for koalas. When you see the koala, then you take a photo with your smartphone and then you upload that photo to iNaturalist, this platform. And the iNaturalist platform then takes the metadata from the photo to place that on a mapping system, and also takes the time and the time of the observation and also the time of logging of that observation onto the platform, which you'll see in a minute is really important. So in 2023, we just snuck over the line to beat 189. And then in this year, we've made 230 observations. And that's we're really pleased with that as a result of, because I suppose in 2023, we were pleased with that performance, but in 24, we had a significant rain event in the months leading up to our count. And I didn't sort of realise, because I'm not a scientist, just a citizen scientist now, but I didn't realise that the increased canopy growth caused from the rain means it's a lot harder to see these blighters up in the top of trees. So that was a challenge for us. So we made 230 in this year. So if you go onto the iNaturalist website, this isn't the website at the moment, it's just an image from there, but 230 observations, one species, 76 identifiers. So that is independent scientists across the world look at the data that's on, an observation that's on there, and confirm that it's research grade, so that it's accepted as being a koala and not a horse. And then there are 36 observers have lodged 230 observations. Some of them, as you'll see, have done more than one observation, but many of them were. And that's our aim, obviously, as part of this exercise, this project, is to increase engagement. So let's look at the tally board. Up the top there, most observations, Claws Inc., 94. Round of applause. Deb Hanson from Claws and Carly are here in the, if you just quickly stand up here. Thank you. Thank you, Deb and Carly. Magnificent effort. 94 observations. On one occasion, I think you went driving for a few hours out the back of Gumbunji. Hopefully someone was driving and someone was watching. And I think you had 28 in one outing. That was just magnificent. Thank you very much. And in second place, we had Jan Cluett, also in the gallery here. Jan from GM, 29, and she actually this morning on ABC Radio told some stories about her sightings out at GM that I hadn't heard before, so it's wonderful. And then Lana has a Pittsworth Landcare team, and they had 20 observations across the Pittsworth, Brookstead, Irongate, that Yarranlee area. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So thank you very much. So here you go. Here's the last observation that was lodged. You see it was submitted on the 7th of December. So it was after the 30th of November, but it was observed on the 17th of November. And there's the photo on the left of the female up there. I think it's a female up in the tree there. And then on the right, you'll see the map. The blue mark is where the sighting was, and the red flags or all the other sightings in that Iron, north of Pittsworth there, between Iron Gate on the way to Mount Tyson there. So a great area for observations. And then to get the count going, we had 3 events, one at Crow's Nest, one at Geum that Jan hosted, and then one at Pittsworth that Lana hosted. And we get together a group of active naturalists, and we get out and look for koalas. It was just about absolute bucket down there, and then it poured, and then we had a break of about an hour where we charged out and got lots of sightings, and then it bucketed down again when we were all having coffee, so that was well timed. And here is a sighting from Claws. I say that this is the importance of this one is look at that density on the right-hand side. Look at the map there and the density of sightings there, up north to Crow's Nest and then round on the escarpment. But out in that Gumbunji, that's probably Deb driving out there into that Gumbunji area. Just real density there. So there's another projection from the iNaturalist map. That's showing the density here. I haven't bothered to show the densities on the coast because I didn't want to embarrass them here today. But we're really comparable with any habitat in Eastern Australia. And then if you can see, it's very hard to see that exactly there, but the blue markers are showing the geographic spread of the observations. Just a quick story. Look at the top left-hand northwest corner, Quinaloa and Maclagan there. As part of the project, I went out there and talked to lots of farmers, and they all wanted me to come down and have a look at their koala in their back fence. And I said, but iNaturalist has no observations there for 20 years. What's the story? And they said, why would we want to register our sighting? Then we'll just have the government come out and tell us what to do. And so there's a challenge for next year that we'll have. There's up at Kuya, there's lots of sightings up there, Quinaloa, Maclagan. I'm out at Cecil Plains at the moment doing project work, and there are koalas there. So next year we'll be doing that. Thank you very much. I'm open for questions, and Lana's got all the answers. So I'll take the questions and pass them all to Lana. Thank you.
Right, thanks very much, Chris. Thank you, Lana. Councillor Trevor and Councillor Carroll and Councillor Tim.
Thanks, Chris, for your presentation. Obviously, there's a lot more koalas than what we think, but obviously they're still an endangered species. How do we compare to other South East Queensland councils in what we are doing for basically saving the koala? And funding. How do other councils compare to us with funding? I know you've got a Commonwealth grant, but are we keeping in stead with everything, or is that a Chris question?
Are in our court, although Pittsworth has a long history. You've been planting for 20-something years?
Yeah, so we've been lucky to be the recipient of many grants.
Two reasons for the mic, so you're not having to strain your voice, but also it's live streamed.
Okay.
And they'll only hear if you're on the microphone clearly.
Right.
Thanks.
So Pittsworth Landcare has been involved in restoring koala habitat for, must be nearly 20 years now. So we've been the recipient of lots of grants in that time, and some of those have come from the Toowoomba Council as well, which has been great. It's become a project now that is almost a given for us to do each year. We have more and more private landholders wanting to increase habitat. And certainly for our region, a lot of our koalas are surviving in the trees along the roadsides, which we know is not ideal. So just encouraging more and more landholders to plant more habitat. We also have a Commonwealth grant at the moment where we have done quite a big scientific study, I guess, of the koalas in the Toowoomba region. We just released that report before Christmas, but we hope to do some further publicity about that in the coming months. So it provides a lot more detail about that. But I can say that our koalas, we did a study looking at their genetics, so how they're related to each other. Because some of them are living in quite isolated pockets, but they seem to be doing quite well. There's a lot of genetic diversity between all of our koalas, which is a good indicator of a healthy population. And in terms of the diseases that koalas get, they're in a really good place as well. So comparable to other areas that have done the same thing, we are we have less incidence of disease in our koalas. So going forward, they're in a good place. We just have to keep them going and keep that habitat for them.
So, Trevor, just answering your question specifically, I wish I had good news, but I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing to you, but just taking Redland City Council as an example, look, they've got a logo, koala in their logo, so obviously, yeah, they must be doing lots. No, they have been. They've had koala conservation plan since 2016, and they're currently on their 22 to 27 plan, and they've got an action strategy based off that conservation plan that is funded by both state and federal government grants in the millions of dollars. They've just received a $5 million grant from Minister Plebiscite to build a wildlife hospital, which, to be frank, is a hospital to look after the koalas that are injured on the roads of the Redland City Council area. And that's the bottom line of it. Let's have a quick look at Redlands compared to Toowoomba. Obviously, we're 20 times the geographic size of Redlands, so it's not particularly comparable. The populations are about the same. They've done surveys of their koalas back in the 90s and 2000s. They haven't done any since. Why? Because there's been just a catastrophic decline in the numbers there, but that's for them to speak to. They don't know how many koalas they've got at the moment. No one knows how many koalas we've got in the Toowoomba region, but if anyone can make an educated guess, I think I'm in that position. And I'd say we've probably got 2 to 3 times the number of koalas that they've got. They're spending about $5 to $10 million a year on their koala strategies. Gee, there's an issue there, isn't there? Why are they doing it? My gut feeling is it's the international tourism market that they're really after there. People, when you survey international tourists that are coming in their top 1 or 2 is they want that koala experience. So don't worry, I'll talk to the Wagners and see if they want to, because they're obviously looking at international tourists coming into their airport. So as I think here we go, they've got international tourists coming into their airport. So what a great idea for them to have an authentic koala experience, not, a zoo or a protected area, but you can go out into the bush and look up in a tree and see a koala. And once you do that, as Jan said on ABC radio this morning, it's just takes you away once you, and you've obviously all seen koala in the wild. Hopefully you share our passion. Thanks for the question, Trevor.
Good. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much for this and for the presentation and for the work and passion you put into it. I actually come from Toowoomba when I was a child and grew up with koalas. They're everywhere. They're around Gundy, they're Texas, everywhere. And they're all the way along the escarpment, right up to Halden. And that's my question, I guess, is are you doing any mapping around the Mount Rascal area, all the way down there? We've got locals out there that can show you where they cross the road and have done for many, many years. So it's not north-centric, it's all the way along. My mum and dad used to have a house, both of them are gone now, still got the house, but at Pittsworth, and the back tree into the park at the back there off Murray Street, always koalas in that back tree near that little park bench there. I'd have to say that thank you very much for your passion, because it's not only koalas that this sort of habitat saves as well, it's gliders and other creatures, specifically birds and other things as well. So it's important we think about that, but the koala work encompasses all that. It seems to me, and I might be unaware of something, but it seems to me that the Inland Rail purchasing this land, the DA land, is an answer to a prayer, because my understanding is that they're wanting to establish carbon capture there. So I think the end result should be, if they should plant the right trees, it should be an amazing result for koalas going forward, I think.
Well, my work is done. Councillor Taylor, you can take on the mantle. You seem to have covered all those issues. If I could just take you to the
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to
that's
recognise
wonderful. I think
what
you've
the
covered
work
that.
that you've done and encourage, maybe not you, but to get more volunteers from down the south to come and join you. That would be great.
If we could just go to the conservation strategy, and that answers directly your issue. There is a lot of money on the table that has been spent over the last 5 years in the southeast Queensland area, and Toowoomba got a round figure of that. And that is because we are not, the majority of our regional areas not within the purview of that strategy. And there is talk at the moment. I've seen an ad on Seek for a job going for a conservation officer. So it sounds like there could be planning towards moving that strategy towards mapping in this area. Is that a good thing or not? I saw Councillor Von Hoff agree with me when I was talking about the farmers not wanting the government come onto their property, and that is a real live issue that I'm trying to overcome, reassure them. The best way I can do that is say, don't worry, I'm not reporting any data to the individual data to the Commonwealth Government, because they are concerned as to what's coming in terms of government regulation. But if we can get mapping here, that would be the start of funding.
And that's, the state government mapping is totally inadequate, and that's the mapping we use for planning. So that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, this is a separate project in terms of the mapping of koala habitat in particular. The major area closest to us is just in the Lockyer north of the highway there.
And of course you'd be aware of the farmer, the macadamia farmer up who has put eucalyptus trees on the inaccessible land and made a koala habitat in the middle of a macadamia farm on the Sunshine Coast.
There we go.
So raising awareness is very important.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Tim, and then Councillor Rebecca, and we'll wrap this session up here.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Morning, guys. Thanks for coming. It's an interesting game of politics sometimes for koala funding. My question before seeing Lana was going to be, I was at a fascinating study a few days before Christmas in Pittsworth about the different groups and diseases and subgroups that live here. Have you collaborated? It's good to see you here, Lana, and thank you for being in that. I suppose my question is, I'm interested in observations versus how many of them are double ups and how you work with that. And also, like, are you at the stage of where you can look at a picture and identify markings to see if the same koala's in there twice? And also the heat work that you've done, Chris, on how does that work? How's the success with that? What other critters do you find?
Yeah, I think the doubling up, that's just a discipline that we've adopted from our 2021 project. And so if we're out in a group, we all agree that if we see a koala, who's going to observe that for the database? So that, but you can look then on the photos, and we're quite trained to the eye. And if you've seen the same koala, you might see on that in this project I only observed 10 koalas. Well, I probably saw 70 or 80, but I was in a group where we said, well, you saw that first. Did you get a photo? Yes, can you? So the doubling up's not a concern, Lana?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the study we did, we collected samples from, I think it was 82 individual koalas, and that was verified by genetic testing, so we can prove that they were all different koalas. And there were certainly a lot more that we could have sampled, but we were limited with funds as to how many we could do.
And the heat work, how's that been going?
Exhausting, Tim. It's out. Unfortunately, the best resolutions are between about 2 and 3 in the morning.
Right.
So if you see my car going out to Cecil Plains that I mentioned earlier, out to Lynn Brazel's property at Condamine Plains out there, beautiful property on the Condamine there. And but you've got to get out there nice and early. Fortunately, over the Christmas period, it was just too humid. So I didn't have to go out there but we hope to resume those. And obviously the thermal drone that we purchased through the project, with the project finishing in April of this year, that will become a community resource. And I've documented the methodology for the use of that drone so that it'd be available to any community organisation to use it. In particular, with search and rescue of lost animals and lost children. Thermal drone is uniquely capable of finding little lost souls.
Good on you, thanks.
Thank you. Next, Councillor Tim. Councillor Rebecca.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Through you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Lana. So you're quite right that when this South East Queensland Koala Conservation Strategy was released in 2020, the very vast majority of Toowoomba region wasn't included in that. And then in September of 21, there was a council motion to write to the Environment Minister at the time to say we'd like to be included. We want to strengthen our koala protections. And that motion is still on the books. So in November of last year, I actually wrote to the acting CEO and the mayor and councillors to say there had been a change of government, there'd been a change of minister. Our motion still stands. And so there seems to be an opportunity then to reinvigorate that same motion right to the government, and it's particularly timely given that this strategy is going to presumably be refreshed for 25 to 26 onwards. And so, you know, Toowoomba region's inclusion in that is consistent with our motion. So that was November last year. It seems really timely now that we've had this deputation that perhaps that could be picked up and enacted as a good way to start 2025.
Yes, just a couple of comments. I wish I shared your confidence as to the continuation of that, but we'll be looking at significant defunding of projects, and we're concerned with Minister Powell to ensure that these type of projects do continue. Obviously, there is a lot that the council can be doing, not waiting for the strategy to arrive, and obviously tree preservation is critical to that. And having a regime that can be enforced so that you're protecting habitat for koalas across the region. And that also extends to our major challenge for our koalas here is the lantana infestation along the escarpment and on all the cones around, because obviously if you've got interlocking branches, then the koalas can jump from tree to tree, but if there's no interlocking, they need to get down on the ground. And I don't know if you've wandered through a grove of lantana lately. If you had, you wouldn't be here today because you'd be covered in cuts and it just chokes the ground for the koalas. So, but anyway, thank you, Councillor Von Hoff, for your interest and Councillor's general interest, and we look forward to updating you in 25 or on 25's count in 26. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lana. Round of applause. Bill. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. So, councillors, we move then to item number 3 on the agenda, which is attendance, including apologies, leave of absence, granting leave of absence and declaration of conflicts of interest. We have a leave of absence for Councillor Gary Gardner, and there's no resolution required for that. We have a request from Councillor Rebecca, the Deputy Mayor, for granting a leave of absence.
Thanks, Mayor. I request to be granted leave of absence from the committee meetings on the 12th of February 2025 to attend council business at the Australian Local Government Association meeting.
Thank you. Have someone moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Sorry, Councillor James.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I request to be granted a leave of absence from the committee meetings on the 11th and 12th of February.
Thanks, Councillor O'Shea, moved by Councillor Rebecca, seconded by Councillor Melissa. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Councillors, I also have a granting of leave of absence from the special meeting of council, from any special meeting of council, which may be scheduled on from 5th of February 2025 until the 20th of February 2025, which will include committee meetings on the 11th and 12th of February and the ordinary meeting on the 18th of February. That's for council business. Councillor Rebecca, Councillor Tim, those in favour? Motion's carried. Councillors, we move then to declarations of conflicts. Oh, sorry, Councillor Shine, you had a...
Just in the unlikely event that today's meeting goes beyond 1:30, I'd like to indicate intention to attend a funeral, leaving here at 1:30. Request leave accordingly.
Thanks, Councillor. And you're the same, Councillor Carroll? Okay, so we'll deal with that when we get to it, if you don't mind, Councillor Carey, Councillor Carroll. And note your optimism about finishing before then, Councillor Sean. So we'll see how we go. Are there any other declarations of leave of absence at this point? If there's not, do we have any declared prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflicts of interest? If not, then we move then to item number 4, which is confirmation of minutes. And there may well be, well, there's potentially a change on the ordinary meeting of council, and Councillor Koala has also indicated that he may have a subsequent change as well. This is for the ordinary meeting, which was on the 10th of December. The motion is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council dated 10th of December be confirmed. Councillors, I would like you to consider, and Deanne, if you could put up on the screen, given some advice from our legal and governance manager, Bailey Garcher, who's in the room as well, there is just a slight change to reflect the actual meeting itself. It's just a change from the wording, but it's an important change. Can you just leave that up the top there, please, Deanne, so I can read that? Deleting wording, so just go above that a little bit, please. The minutes be confirmed with the following amendment to page 7 of the unconfirmed minutes. Attendance. Deleting the wording, however, as it has now been determined that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in the matter, I will leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on. Now, that's the wording that was put in the minutes. However, after reviewing the footage, the wording that better reflects what actually occurred is suggested the following. However, as the relevant circumstances have not changed, I'll participate in the decision on the matter, including by voting on the matter. Councillors raised whether Councillor Gardner has a prescribed conflict due to item number 17.3 Infrastructure Services Group report showing active road closures applications which could be impacted by any change to the subordinate local law number 1.15, carry out works on a road or interfering with a road or its operation, 2020. Councillor Gardner did not declare a prescribed conflict of interest on the matter, however, voluntarily left the room, nor was there, so Councillor Gardner voluntarily left the room, nor was there a determination he had a prescribed conflict of interest on the item. And that's the last of that information, Deanne. So that better reflects what occurred in the meeting. And I, as chair, obviously, when it was raised, indicated to Councillor Gardner, had he received any information which he said that he would receive or could receive, he said that he didn't receive that information. So I suggested at that point that it was prescribed conflict of interest. It's then been alerted to me through Bailey Garcher, our legal manager, that according to the Act, there needs to be a declaration as to, or a reasons for that, and therefore this reflects more what happened in the meeting, which was Councillor Gardner's prerogative to leave the meeting at that time when that was raised, and there was no further discussion took place. So this is just to reflect what happened in the meeting. It's difficult because Councillor Gary is not in the room, obviously, to talk to this. However, it's a meeting minutes that we need to ratify today in the meeting. So, therefore, councillors, are there any questions in regard to that? Bailey is here if required to answer questions. Councillor Bill. Bailey, would you like to come forward, please? Councillor Bill.
Thanks, Councillor Trev. As the whole of committee of council met the week prior at the ISG, and that forms part of the ratification of the ordinary meeting minutes, there's a slight change. I'm suggesting, I haven't signed the ISG report as chair as yet, and I wanted to raise it. And it's item 3. of the ISG report.
Councillor Bill, can we deal with this one first, if that's okay?
Well, Chair, I can't comfortably vote on the ordinary meeting minutes because part of the ordinary meeting minutes is acceptance of the committee reports.
No, that's fine, but
as
this
true and
is,
correct.
I'm just focused on this particular element, and then we'll come to you before we do that vote. So if there's other changes, then it's
righto.
fine.
Okay.
This is just to see if there's any questions in regard to this particular element
Okay.
for the manager. Councillor Rebecca?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, through you. From memory with this, Anne-Marie was the acting CEO at the time, and we went through this handout that we've got here, and I remember asking the acting CEO if there were provisions in the Act that allowed councillors to vote on a prescribed conflict of interest. And councillors, from memory, we were told that no, it's just there is no vote, you leave if you've got a prescribed conflict. So while Councillor Gardner might not have declared a prescribed conflict of interest, we never went to a vote on that. But the information we received was that that's because we don't vote on that.
So the only time you would vote on it is if the council themselves disputes the fact that it is a prescribed conflict of interest, and then councillors would vote on it, which you have the right to do. In this instance, I made the assumption that as there was no further information that there was a prescribed conflict of interest, the councillor left the room. So in my mind, that was acceptance that there was a prescribed conflict of interest. However, Bailey's reviewed the information, and I'm happy for you to talk to this. So just clarifying, if the councillor says, yes, I have a prescribed conflict of interest, this is why, there's no vote. However, if the councillor says, no, I dispute that, councillors then have the option to vote on that matter. Right? And we didn't vote on it because Councillor Gardner left the room, which in my mind was, I accept the fact that I've got a prescribed conflict. However, Bailey's got more technical with it in regard to reviewing the tape and wants to make sure that we reflect in our minutes what actually happened. Clarify that?
I suppose so. I guess it's hard when Councillor Gardner's not here to do this as well.
That's the point I make. Anyway, are we happy for Bailey? You're happy to, Bailey, just to give context to this?
Okay, so all respect to acting CEO at the time, Anne-Marie, the department's guide sheet, it doesn't cater for everything. There's a whole chapter on conflicts of interest. When I get a chance, I'll set up a training session for it. No one's meant to be lawyers as councillors, and nor is. So there is a section in the Act. It's no different if one councillor has a suspicion or belief that someone else has got a prescribed conflict of interest or a declarable conflict of interest and they don't raise it. There's a section in the Act which allows you to raise it. So technically, one would assume that the questions that were raised by other councillors, that you've raised a belief there could be a prescribed conflict of interest for that councillor. So it's been raised. That particular councillor, to keep it in plain English, has two options. They can either declare it after it's been discussed and they've answered questions, or, council can vote on it, okay? So there is a section that says, I'll track it down, okay? So just bear with me. So there's a section 150, sorry about the numbering, 150 EW, this applies if a councillor reasonably believes or reasonably suspects another councillor who has a prescribed conflict of interest in a matter. So technically, questions were raised, there's some belief there could be a prescribed. You go through that, the councillor who has the belief or must, then you go into section 2. If the belief or suspicion arises in the local government meeting, immediately inform the person who is presiding at the meeting about the belief or suspicion. So Councillor Gardner didn't declare a prescribed, okay? So he probably said the opposite. Then he said otherwise, then the councillor must also inform the presiding or the chief. So none of that happened. Then you go to 150X, okay? Then 150X says that if subsection 1C applies, if they declare it after the belief's raised, obviously you go back to the prescribed conflict and they leave the room, and that's fine. And then if you go, the eligible councillor meeting must decide whether or not the relevant councillor has a prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest in the matter. So there is a section in there that says if that particular councillor doesn't declare the prescribed and you still want to vote on it, you can, and that it's no different to declarables. You've got to have some sort of legislative, right as councillors to determine another belief and suspicion. In this case, nor was there a declaration by Councillor Gardner. He just got up, voluntarily left. He didn't declare, there was no determination. So, and no one's meant to know that in-depth legislation. I've got to go away and sit down and look at it. So we're working off the department guide, and I'm a qualified lawyer working through the Act and then looking at to make sure it all matches up. So, essentially it can't be everywhere, but it's not something I'd expect an acting CEO or councillors to know off the top of their head. Like, the guide has prescriptions. We're in a unique situation. That was a unique situation. I've got to go and have a look at the Act. That guide's not going to cover that off. So technically, we're virtually reflecting the minutes as that councillor, he didn't declare a prescribed conflict of interest in the matter. That's clear. Okay, and then however voluntarily left the room, and there was no determination. So there was actually no determination by councillor. So that's factually what happened. The belief was raised. He didn't declare it. Okay, and when you came back to it, he just voluntarily left. There was no words saying, I've got a prescribed conflict of interest. If that happened, so that there's no words of that on record, and essentially he just voluntarily left, and nor did council vote on it. It's simple as that. So it's been to reflect exactly what happened. So there's a section here that you can raise beliefs. That's what I'm not in Councillor Gardner's, mens rea state of mind. But when I view things, he voluntarily left, but there was no determination. The minutes need to reflect exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And there's obviously an assumption, there's certainly an assumption on my behalf that because the councillor left, then there was an acceptance that there was. Correct. Now, if that's not right, then we need to reflect that. Yeah. So anyone else got any questions on that one? Now, so that's now dealt with. Now, Councillor Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Could we bring item 3 up of the ISG committee report? There's a slight change to that, and it's in vein with what Bailey is talking about, reflecting an accurate record between the tape footage and the recorded minutes. And the change, it says there in item 3, declaration of interest there, Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff referred to Councillor Gary Gardner's previous declaration made. My change that I'm comfortable with as my recollection and looking back over the matter as chair of that meeting, my suggested change is that Councillor Von Hoff inquired of Councillor Gardner, Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff inquired of Councillor Gardner, had his circumstances changed since his previous declaration in the ordinary meeting of Council September, right through until the words after the brackets in relation to Council's decision that Councillor Gardner. That's the change I suggest reflects the tone of the meeting and reflects accurately the recorded version of the proceeds of the meeting.
Yeah, Bailey, thank you, Councillor Bill. Have you had a chance to discuss this with Councillor Bill?
I looked at the footage quickly yesterday, but not in detail. But if you want to add the words, and I'll, to the best of my recollection of the footage that I viewed yesterday, so what changes are you requesting, Councillor Cale?
Simply the words after Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff instead of referred, because refer implies a different meaning when there was, and I would ask Councillor Rebecca to verify if you so wish. There was a specific question, had Councillor, so the words inquired of Councillor Gardner, had his circumstances changed since his previous declaration?
It's really removing the word referred
to reflect Councillor Von Hoff's question.
But can you
specifically in relation to this declaration, and it's how we deal with declarations in the interest of the public and transparency.
Just to help Deanne, can you just read word for word slowly what you'd like to have
Yep.
in there.
Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff, change there, inquired of Councillor Gardner. That's it. And
That's
then down after the brackets so that it reads in correct tense, after the brackets of the item, applications and processes, in relation to.
So instead of since, it's the commentary was in relation to.
No, so it says here, proposal to improve footpath road closure applications processes, closed bracket, in relation to council's decision, that councillor Gary. Yeah. Because
So-
it was a specific question of Councillor Von Hoff, had his circumstances changed since that previous information, and which council made a determination.
Well, we've
on.
just taken the word since out and put in relation to.
Yeah, in relation to, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable with that? What's
Yeah,
up on the
that's-
screen there?
I believe that reflects.
Any questions for Councillor Bill in regard to this? The tape, Bailey, you're comfortable that is reflective of what you saw on the machine?
It's what I'm looking for. It's not contradictive to what happened. So those word changes don't contradict the actual facts. So I'm not looking at the wordsmithing. I'm just looking at have we got it factually right. It's really up to councillors whether they want to accept those words. So I do recall Councillor Rebecca Von Hoff, the Deputy Mayor, raising, inquiring, referring to it. It's all a similar context. And then it was, since, probably in relation is a better word, so to council's decision. So, yeah, so I'm looking at that doesn't contradict what happens. So there's none of those changes contradict the actual events.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Melissa, you had your hand up.
I'm not disputing. I'm just struggling because I can't recall the exact minute that this all happened, and without reviewing the actual footage, I just don't know if I feel comfortable voting on it until I saw it, or to hear Councillor Von Hoff's thoughts on it as well. Like this is going to go into the minutes, which can reflect a council decision or Councillor Gardner's conflicts or decisions going forward. So, without Councillor Gardner here, without seeing the footage, without hearing from Councillor Von Hoff, I'm not disputing Councillor Bill, I'm just trying to understand, and I just don't know if I feel 100% comfortable.
Totally respect that, and that's why the first matter was dealt with the way it was, to make sure that was 100% correct. This has come as a sort of a late entry into so we need to be comfortable with it. Given that, Councillor Carroll, you had your way, we'll come back, Councillor Melissa.
Only to mention, Mr Mayor, that I was absent over at a conference for the committee, so I wasn't present at committee.
The minutes show.
That's fine. Councillor Rebecca, your recollections of this, and then were you back then, Nick? Nick was back there as well, so we're happy to hear Nick's views too on that. Councillor Rebecca.
Thanks, Mayor. So I remember asking a question about if circumstances have changed, and that's what I remember happening. I haven't looked at the footage since. I haven't looked at the footage. I just lived at the moment, and that's all I can really add to it. Sorry, Mayor.
It's okay. You recall asking the question. At the moment, we're heavily reliant on Bailey's assessment of what it is. Nick might have a comment on it as well, and Tim's got a question too. I'll go to Nick first.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, councillors. I haven't gone back and reviewed the footage, so I can't speak. I'm speaking to my memory. And in my view, I think the word changes don't alter, the intent of what the minutes were trying to reflect. The question was asked. Councillor Gardner, Councillor had made a decision previously in relation to a declarable conflict of interest? Have your circumstances changed? And he advised the meeting the next words that were there. So I don't think this alteration of words particularly amend the intent of what we're trying to do. My recollection is absolutely there was a question asked, and I might be getting my meetings confused, but I remember at a meeting myself referring to a previous declaration and reading it for councillors. I can't remember if that was the December meeting or a different meeting, but I do remember doing that at some time. But in my view, I don't think this is, altering, I was going to say significantly, but even in a minor way, really, that what had been previously prepared as draft minutes.
Councillor Tim.
Thanks. To the Mayor, to the CEO and Bailey's point, what's been proposed doesn't, in my opinion, significantly change the intent of the overall wording. But I think Councillor Melissa's point is prudent here. We're changing something that could have significant ramifications on someone's conflict of interest for someone who's not here. And we're all sitting around trying to pick our brains of my memory of before Christmas, which is, in everyone's opinion, cloudy at best. Like the idea that we throw this up at the ordinary meeting and then we've all got to, how about we distribute this beforehand and say this is the thing I'd like to change, and actually look at the tape, which is publicly available, to see if this change needs to be made. I don't think that's an onerous task before we're going to do this. It's called doing it on the run. And I wonder if we can hold off ratifying this meeting until next month, look at the tape, get the evidence, rather than sit around saying, in my memory, at an ordinary meeting. I wonder if that's better practice to do that. So my question is, we've asked for 2 changes. Can we vote on them separately? And is it within our rights to defer ratifying these meeting minutes for another month to get this done right, rather than trying to pick our memory at this stage?
Look, the answer to your question is yes, we can defer them. There's not an issue to defer decision on it. This particular one is very minor compared to the previous one, which was a more significant change, and that's where I have every confidence in the work that was done to get the wording right for that. That because that's been for a couple of weeks. That hasn't been on the fly. This one potentially has been. So we have an option to defer the whole thing, or an assessment of this which says how minor is this change. And I've heard from the governance manager who did view the tape, albeit yesterday, and suggest this is reflective of what that is. Councillor Rebecca has said she recalls saying it. Acting CEO Nick has also ratified that. Happy for a motion to come forward to defer it if you want to do that. But this is the minutes, that if that's reflective of what I've heard here, then that's up to council.
Chair, can I just add some context? No one's doing anything on the fly here. I just object to those comments a little bit because...
Thank you. Point of order's been called. Councillor Tim.
This is the first time anyone's seen anything. How's it not on the fly?
I'm just about to explain.
Okay,
and it's a process
we'll
of how
explain
this...
We'll explain where you've got to with this, Councillor Bill.
This is, when we got the minutes of the ordinary meeting, this is the first time, other than when I raised it on the day immediately after the Infrastructure Committee meeting, and you can see my notes that I wrote on this section, and Bailey's had this, and this is the first I've seen to ratify as part of ordinary meeting agenda. That's all of our responsibility. So no one's doing this on the fly. It is in order and sequence of when we ratify minutes at the next ordinary meeting. So that's all I'm doing. And Wendy took this away, and obviously Bailey has had a look at this, come back. I've discussed it with Bailey. I haven't done anything on the fly. I've stuck to the process. Like any of us has a responsibility to read the minutes and the agendas that we all do. So that's all I'm doing. And I say again, it accurately reflects the public record, which is not just the written minutes, but the recorded minutes footage. And Chair, you've already said, Acting CEO Bailey, Councillor Rebecca have confirmed that. And that is my recollection, and that is not 24 hours old, those notes. It is immediately after the, at the ordinary meeting when they were to be, you know, when she hands them around to chairs to sign, that's when I raised it.
Thanks, Councillor Bill. Councillor James, you had a question?
Thanks, Mayor. I just probably just want to add to this, I suppose. Look, I absolutely respect anyone who has an opinion that doesn't feel comfortable to vote on it based on what they want to see, and I get that. For what it's worth, respectfully, the way I see it is that Councillor Koala, who's proposed this change, we're changing a word, which is inquired, referred, requested, sought information. They all mean the same thing to me. If we wanted to change it to interrogated, you know, admonished, something like that, I'd understand that it certainly changes the intent, which it doesn't. So I think I think it's a, you know, if that's a better word that reflects the outcome, that's fine. And the other word we're changing is in relation from since. So the CEO sort of felt comfortable with the minutes that have been taken. The manager of governance has pointed out that it obviously doesn't change the intent or the outcome of what actually happened. So for again, as I said, I understand and respect anyone that sees it differently. But for me, I as I said, I really feel like it says the same thing. And if there isn't any objection that it isn't saying the same thing, I'd actually like to move a procedural motion that we vote on it and move forward.
Okay, it's a procedural motion that we vote on this and put it forward. We don't need a seconder for the procedural motion, so we'll go to the vote. Those that are happy to put the vote forward, which will be for the confirmation of minutes with those two changes that have been made. The procedural motion is to go to that. Okay, so those in favour to go to that motion? Those against? Okay, do you want your vote recorded? Councillor Melissa. So therefore, Councillor James, the motion, now it's added a couple of things here because we've got that one plus the previous one at the end, which will be, if you can have the motion. So there's that one, confirmation of minutes, ordinary meeting, and a special meeting of council. Hang on, what's that about? That's the item. Okay, so do you have the motion that we'll vote on that we could put up on the screen by any chance? For this motion, which is the ordinary meeting of council on the 10th of December with those two adjustments? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Sean?
Just a query.
While that's happening, yeah.
As to whether or not I'm able to vote at all on the wording of item 4, in that I wasn't present at the meeting on the 11th of December.
Yeah, no, that's the second. That'll be the second motion. So we're only doing the first one, which is the ordinary meeting on the 10th, okay. And then we'll do the special meeting second.
Okay, well,
yeah. So that one you won't.
That'll be my question then.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine.
Question.
Councillor Rebecca? Councillor Melissa, sorry. I knew you were in that direction.
Thanks.
Throwing you.
You have thrown me. Sorry. Oh, yes. Are we voting on them separately? Or are you
We're voting on the ordinary meeting with the amendments, which will be in two-part. The amendment from...
So, but are we voting on the amendment separately, or are we voting on the...
No, this will become the motion. Right. So the motion is the change to the minutes, which is accepting the minutes with these changes. So the motion will read that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of dated such and such be confirmed with the following changes. And there's two changes.
Can I just ask a question then? Because what if you agree with one but you don't agree with the other? Then do you just vote against the motion as a whole?
Yeah, we can. I'm quite happy to separate the two motions. The challenge will be that the minutes are one motion.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can't separate the minutes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So we've got some wording coming up here now. Thank you, Dan. Here it comes. Dan said to me this morning, "Oh, it looks like it'd be a pretty quick meeting this morning." And I said to her, "Be careful what you wish for, Dan. You've just jinxed us." Anyway, we'll get through it. It's important to just work through it, a process that we're all comfortable with. Councillor Melissa.
Thanks. Just while that's being done, is it possible, and I know there's been discussion and I'm just putting this out there for to be discussed at a later date, but I don't feel comfortable with how this has all happened, in that the first issue that we've discussed has been reviewed and we all had notification.
Councillor Melissa, you'll have a chance to vote against this when it comes up. So you'll have it, but we have got a procedural motion to put this to the vote. So that's where we're at, and we'll put it to the vote.
I wasn't going to debate it. I just was going to ask a question that if one's been distributed before the ordinary meeting for us all to review, then if this has been raised with the second one's been raised with governance before, then would it be prudent then next time to distribute it so we could all have a look at the video or the live stream beforehand? That's all I wanted to say, because then that would have absolutely not had any discussion here, because we would have all had our mind made up before we came to a meeting. So
I think the benefit of this is that we can learn from it, Councillor Melissa.
And that's exactly my point.
Very
Mr.
good.
Chair.
Well,
so just wondering if we can look at that going
I think
forward.
not only will we look at it, but we'll do it.
Thank you. I
There will be
appreciate that.
some occasions, however, where things come up and late,
absolutely.
and that may well be a difference of circumstance. However, with every hurdle, there's opportunity to improve. And this is one of them.
absolutely agree. Thank you.
Okay, let's put that up there so we can read it clearly, if you don't mind, Deanne, because I'm struggling to see that from this angle. Okay, the minutes of the ordinary meeting dated the 10th of December 2024. Can you spin that around, please, Nick, a fraction? Thank you. Be confirmed with following amendments to page 7 of the unconfirmed minutes. Attendance. Delete wording, which is what we've done before, and we've gone through that and everyone was comfortable with that. Additionally, that the minutes of the Infrastructure Committee meeting on the 3rd of December 2024 be amended to page 5, item 2, attendance. Delete wording, Councillor Rebecca referred to Councillor Gardner's, etc., etc. Insert wording, Councillor Rebecca inquired. The two changes are referred, changes to inquired, and then after the brackets, the word, which was simply after brackets, there was in relation, but that word's changed in that top one. Because there was another word that said since.
No, that was original.
Oh, that's the original one, righto. And then there was a drafted one. Okay, so the original said end of, and this was changed in relation to. Right. That's the motion we're voting on. Okay. Have someone move that motion. It's a procedural motion, moved by Councillor Bill, seconded by Councillor James. Any need to go into debate? No need to go into debate. Those in favour? Those against? Like your votes recorded. So Councillor Melissa, Councillor Edwina, Councillor Tim, Councillor Kerry. Against. make note of that one, Deanne and Alex. Thank you. That motion is carried. Okay, and as Councillor Melissa said, and we all agree, I think there's some good learnings there for all of us to make that a bit more seamless. And certainly if there's something that occurs, thank you, customer service, Reg. That doesn't normally happen at the start of the meetings, I have to say. So it's specifically for you all to see the operations, okay? Well done. Councillors will then continue on with the special meeting of council, and Councillor Shine, you were absent for that meeting. So the motion is that the minutes of the special meeting of council dated 11 December 2024 be confirmed. Have someone move that that is correct? No one wants to move these things now. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Rebecca. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Shine obviously not there for that meeting. Any business arising from the minutes of the previous meetings? If not, we move to item 6, which is the presentation of petitions. Councillor Trevor, you have a petition.
Thanks, Chair. I do have a petition from an Alexander Martin from Arthur Street, East Toowoomba. I'll read the petition as it reads. The petition draws to the attention of Council the concerns of residents of Arthur Street, in brackets between Mackenzie and Curzon, and Connell Street, East Toowoomba, for the safety of their families, other pedestrians and cyclists, and local vehicle users to the very real risk of increased traffic flows along both Arthur, between Mackenzie and Curzon, and Connell Street after the planned traffic changes, Curzon Street, reference DM 11835388. Vehicles heading south will still try to avoid the traffic lights at Margaret and Mackenzie Streets, but with Curzon Street, in brackets calmed, the new route to avoid the lights will be via Mackenzie Street, left into Arthur, then right into either Curzon or Connell Street. While Curzon as a sub-arterial distributor road may be able to handle the flow, Arthur Street in brackets is a local collector road, and Connell Street in brackets is a local access road, certainly cannot. We therefore request that Council ensures that both Arthur Street and Connell Street, post-planned traffic changes, Curzon Street implementation, is not subject to increased traffic flows, including rat runners. I'll present the petition to you, Chair.
Thank you. So you're moving for the council to receive the petition? Okay, have a seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Edwina. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Trevor. The petition will be handed to the acting CEO for a response. And thank you. Okay, item number 7, councillors, is the mayoral minute. There are no mayoral minutes for today. We move to item 8, which is the monthly financial performance statement. Anne-Marie, welcome to you, GM of Corporate Services. This is a financial performance statement, which we did have a session yesterday in readiness for today as well. So thank you. Anne-Marie, welcome to you. Question? No. Welcome, Anne-Marie, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors, and Happy New Year again. So I'm presenting the monthly financial performance statement for the period ending 31st of December, and this is required by Section 204 of the Local Government Regulation. So this is a quarterly report. We've also included Council's sustainability statement and the capital work summary report. So you will note from the matters for the month that the operating surplus ratio at the 31st of December was negative 1.4%. That's against a target of greater than 0%. So this can be partly attributed to the timing of DRFA funding, but also an overspend in materials and services, which we discussed at length yesterday, And this expenditure has been very carefully considered and reviewed by the executive leadership team. Unrestricted cash expense ratio at the 31st of December was 5.93 months. That's against the Queensland Government Financial Management Guideline of greater than 2 months. I think it's important to notice Council's leverage ratio as well is within the target range, and when considered with the higher than targeted target unrestricted cash expense ratio, this indicates that Council is currently able to fund additional capital expenditure through working capital and or borrowings without increasing sustainability and service delivery risks. So that's at this point in time, but I think it does show us why we have to be ever vigilant in managing our expenditure and our cash flows. The asset sustainability ratio is lower than target and may indicate that sustained spending on upgrade and new capital expenditure will lead to sustainability pressures. So we're able to, as you know, we only borrow through Queensland Treasury Corporation and only for capital works. Our rate arrears at the 31st of December, 3.64%. It's against a target of less than 5%, so it's tracking very well. That's a measure we do just twice a year. And we settled those two properties through the sale of land process on the 13th of December. Through the Consolidated Financial Performance Statement, which is our main operating and capital income and expenditures statement for the organisation, we can see that rates and levies are tracking very closely to budget with a variance of less than 1%. Fees and charges over budget at the moment across a number of branches in the organisation, and this will be reviewed at Budget Review 2, which is to occur at the end of January. Interest, again, higher than budget, and that's due to the cash holdings that we currently have as a result of having delivered 32% of our capital expenditure year to date. Grants and subsidies are tracking below budget, and that's just due to a recognition principles. So there's no risk identified in either of those areas at the moment. It's just when we can actually recognise that income. In the expenditure, overall labour tracking to budget, and as I advised yesterday, field-based staff received a 6% increase last week with certification of theirs. The enterprise bargaining agreement due to occur next week on the 30th of January. Indoor staff increase is planned to be processed next week. So the main item of concern is the materials and services budget, over by 6.6 million at this stage, and we're very closely considering our commitments for the rest of this financial year. Happy to take questions.
Sorry. Thanks, Anne-Marie, very much indeed. Comprehensive, and we had a session yesterday as well and dissected this a little bit further. Are there any questions, councillors, in regard to the monthly performance review statement? So no questions. Someone happy to move? Moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor Edwina. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Noting Councillor Carl's not in the room. We got that one. Thank you. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We move then, councillors, to item number 9, which is the Acting Chief Executive Officer's monthly report, and hand over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning again, councillors. And I'd start by wishing you all a happy new year. It's been a busy start to the year already, and here we are all fully back on deck and raring to go. Councillors, a couple of bullet points in the covering report for you. There are the usual attachments, but I did think it would be a good opportunity to provide you with a further update in relation to enterprise bargaining. And GM Anne-Marie did touch on some of those matters just now in the executive performance report, but we have been able to apply the 6% wage increase to our outdoor staff, our Stream B and Stream C staff, as of the last pay period, so they all will be receiving that new pay rate. And in relation to that enterprise agreement, we have reached agreement with unions, as you know, and we are listed for a meeting with the Queensland Industrial Relations Commission next week on the 30th of January to formalise that agreement. Following that, we'll be able to process the back pay applicable to staff back to 1 July last year. So all those things will be happening. Payroll team will be very busy in the upcoming weeks. We've also been able to progress the proposed 6% wage increase to office-based staff as well. So we're unable to reach agreement with the unions around our Stream A agreement, as you are aware, but as a show of good faith and recognition of cost of living pressures and all of those sorts of things, we have decided to apply that 6% wage increase to our indoor staff, and that will, at this stage, that's on track to be paid for the pay period ending 26th of January. So staff will receive that in their pay packet next week, all things going according to plan. So I thought it would be worthwhile providing you an update in relation to those matters. I also wanted to provide a bit of an update in relation to staff movements and staff appointments, councillors. There's, and I did circulate an email yesterday to you that summarised some of those things, but just to speak to that a little bit, if I could. We've got a couple of new managers commencing with us and have commenced with us. I think we've spoken to those already. Matt Wilcox started with us as our manager ICT at the beginning of the year. Late last year, we had Yvonne start in the water and waste team, managing capital delivery in that area. We have a new manager of people and culture commencing at the beginning of March. And I'm also pleased to announce, this is a brand new announcement, you haven't heard this one yet, but new manager of project services will commence with us in February, and that's Angela Fry's coming to join us as manager of project services. So, and some of you know Angela, Councillor Carroll does, she's worked here before, and she's coming back to join us again. She did project manage the outer circulating road and the detention basin, so we're pleased to welcome Ange back in February. So, councillors, we're filling a number of those vacant manager roles, attracting good quality candidates, I think it's fair to say, as evidenced by some of those names that I've said to you. And look, I extend my thanks to all of those staff who are in filling roles in acting capacities and have been for a little while. So it's been a little bit uncertain and a little bit ambiguous, but I thank those people for stepping up and doing that. So a couple of GM changes, the recent resignation of Nicola Stepanov as GM Planning and Development Services, and Carrie Musgrove is ably filling that role. She commenced on Friday for an initial appointment period of 3 months in that role, so thank you, Carrie. Carrie's being backfilled in her Manager Planning role by Matthew Coleman. I'm currently being backfilled by Paul Reynolds now. Hugh Dunn has done his stint and he's enjoying some leave at the moment, and when he returns, he'll return to his substantive role as Manager Property Services. And Kylie Delrain, special thanks to Kylie, who has been filling the Manager People and Culture role for about 18 months now. Kylie's enjoying some well-deserved long service leave, and she that's due to expire in May, I think is the expiry date. Amanda Barb is filling the Manager of People and Culture role until Emma Hoy begins with us in March. And Brendan's been extended to backfill in Kylie's absence again, and also special thanks to Brendan, who's been doing that for 18 months. So lots of moving parts. I thought it would be good to summarise that for you in that email so that you know who to contact if you have any particular inquiries, and some strong announcements there around new staff joining us soon. Councillors, that's all I had for you as an update so early in the year, but I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Nick. Very good. Any questions, councillors, in regard to the Acting CEO's report? Councillor Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Nick. Thanks for your update. I appreciate that. I was chairing the meeting yesterday trying to figure out who was who, and first day back. But I just have a question in relation to the PCE organisational chart that's included. It has been included every month since early 2021, and many of the actions are now marked off. Many of them were marked off in 2021-22. And so there's a few remaining items that look to be marked off very soon. I suppose my question is, some of that work is now 3 years old, and probably we should start investigating those initiatives again. Some of them were valid initiatives, and looking into parts of our workplace that might need some attention. So as far as that study from November 2021, do we finish that off? And, you know, we've got staff surveys coming up. Is it possible in the next little while to see sort of an updated, refreshed list of new actions that we might do in this?
Happy to be guided by councillors in relation to their expectations there. You're right, this was a snapshot in time in response to a particular report, and we certainly haven't stopped there. They're not the only things that have been happening in the people, culture and engagement space. There's been lots of new initiatives and supplementary initiatives. Some of these things are ongoing activities also. You're quite right, our next staff survey occurs in February, and we'll obtain feedback from our staff in relation to their experiences at TRC through that survey, and we will respond to that feedback and develop a whole suite of new initiatives as we've done from each subsequent staff survey. Again, happy to be guided by councillors around your expectations there. I think we can inform you around what those actions are by various means, be that through the formal mechanism here, through verbal updates, through emails, and I would suggest to you that we watch how that unfolds in the first instance. We'll receive those staff survey results, we'll share them with you. Managers are already booking time with their teams, preempting, receiving those results and communicating those, and then workshopping with their staff thereafter to come up with the new actions and strategies.
Yeah, thanks. I look forward to perhaps some new actions coming from that report, and we can remove some of these that have been ticked off 3 years ago and still reported to us, and, you know, start some fresh work on that. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Councillor Tim. It's a valid point. I think the new manager for PCE, that'll be timely. They'll arrive at that same sort of time, so that could be a good opportunity for them to review what's been done and what can potentially be done with their skill set as well. Any other questions for Nick? No other questions. The motion before us is the Acting Chief Executive Officer's monthly report be received. Have someone to move? Moved by Councillor Melissa, seconded by Councillor Tim. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item 10, and then we'll might have a break after that before Acting GM Carey. Item number 10 is the monthly report. It's the Mayor's monthly report, and you've got that there. There's quite a few things in there, predominantly around advocacy, which is what this report really focuses on, what has been happening. One thing I would like to highlight, other than the things that we've been spoken about quite often in the media in regard to the Crestbrook Dam, the importance of that, the funding for that, the equestrian facility, of course, in the 100-day review. But the other one was a meeting with the Inland Rail's Chief Executive Officer, Nick Miller, in around about on the 12th of December, and just noting, and for the community, that there is, it's expected that the EIS, the Environmental Impact Study for the Border to Gowrie section, is scheduled for public consultation in the first quarter, if not by the end of February, which was made note and notified us at that time. So other than that, councillors, it's all very important information there for you to read. Any questions? If there's not, have someone move. Moved by Councillor Rebecca, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Could I have someone now just adjourn for a 10-minute break? Moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Councillor Carey. Those in favour? Motion's carried. 10 minutes, so just after the 22 mark. Thank you. Well, councillors, we'll resume the meeting, and we're up to, on the agenda, item 11, which is officer reports. And the only item within the officer reports is the Regional Development Statistics Report for November 2024. And our acting GM for Planning and Development, Carrie Musgrave, is here. So, Carrie, again, congratulations on the appointment, and thank you very much for the willingness to step up to the role. I'll hand over to you for the statistics report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors. The report that you have before you is the November report, and I'm just going to hit you with some of the highlights. We had a total number of 263 development applications received, 84 of which were planning related, and the rest were relating to building sidings and plumbing. So that was above the average for the month. The average of the month was 251. Of the applications decided, there were 330 decided, again, which is higher than the monthly average, which is 233. Building approvals, 306 building applications were approved. It resulted in 93 new dwelling approvals and 3 new unit developments approved. It's about the same as last month, and the combined value of those building approvals was $105 million, which is an increase in last month, which was about $94.8 million. As far as our new lots approved or sealed, there were 19 new lots approved in the month of November, compared to 3 the month before in October, and the new lots sealed was 21, and that was within an average decision-making period of 3.6 days per seal. And applications under assessment that are as yet undecided, there's 334 planning applications and 219 plumbing or building related applications. I also just want to draw your attention to the last page of the report, which has got the costs associated with planning and development, planning and environment court appeals. So this is the first time that this information has been included in the report. So if you could cast your eye over that and just confirm if that's the style and format that you would like this information presented, or if you'd like some changes, by all means let me know. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much, Carrie. Appreciate that. Councillors, are there any questions in regard to the report? Just in regard to item 22 there, which ironically it's on page 22 as well, the format personally looks perfectly fine for me. I guess the one thing that's probably missing is how the result of what actually happened, because some of these things can be overturned from a council decision or vice versa, and therefore perhaps if councillors are in agreement, then that's potentially something that could be added in there. And with that being the case, that may well be a question for today as well. Carrie, if you wouldn't mind letting us know the outcome of that particular one.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That's a good idea. I'll add that to future reports. This was a submitter appeal, so council approved this particular development application. One of the submitters lodged an appeal against the council's decision. I'd like to say that this ended up as a win-win. The parties agreed on a settlement. So it's mainly about there was new conditions to add a gate to help screen noise and visual amenity. There was some yellow no standing lines and some white centre lines at the intersection just to help with traffic amelioration, and just some changes to the way they were operating the site, in that less reversing movements by including a full circular site manoeuvring and changing the sort of reverse beepers to something less annoying. So the P&E Court finalised the order on the 10th of December last year, and so I'd put that down as a win-win for both parties.
Thanks, Carrie. A question, Councillor?
Question or a suggestion,
Trevor?
probably.
A suggestion, right.
Timelines for, because some things can be over in 1 month, sometimes it can be 3 years. As maybe a suggestion to put a timeline in there.
That'd be difficult to do, Carrie?
No, easy peasy. We can put at the time that the appeal was lodged, which will give you a pretty good indication.
Dan, just the accuracy of minutes, can we put easy peasy in the minutes, please? It'd be the first time in history that's been used, and I like it. I like it a lot. Councillor Bill and Councillor Rebecca.
Thanks, Chair. Through you to Carrie. Carrie, am I to understand we had no choice in this here as submitter took us to court? It wasn't our decision to go, it was the submitter. So maybe of worth for future reference, where council makes a conscious decision to contest something, and when we don't have a choice like this, it might be an more accurate breakup of costs and give some reality as to how things unfold around litigation sometimes if we're going to keep pursuing this track.
So perhaps, Councillor Bill, just in the wording where it says type of appeal, it would be, well, this clearly says a submitter appeal.
But I'm thinking for public record, they may not necessarily know what a submitter means. So, you know, if we're going to continue down this vein, it'd be really handy for us to just track when council makes a conscious decision to contest and take something to court, or contest that, or we, in this case, have no choice and we end up paying costs.
I'm happy to include that additional information. So the sorts of appeal are the submitter appeal, such as this one. There could be an application where council decides to refuse it, and then the applicant would take council to the P&E court, or there could be a situation where council, approves something, and then the applicant might appeal on the conditions that we've imposed. So, but I'll add that further clarification.
Yeah, I think it just paints a real picture that we're into solving problems here. We more times than often I think we're pulled into that situation rather than be confrontational about matters.
I think it's a good point, Councillor Bill. I think Carrie's probably articulated it better than I was. But there's the three options: there's a submitter, applicant, or a council one. So it might just need a little definition down the bottom of the screen that stays on there each month, so that those that are reading it are more educated. Councillor Rebecca, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you. Thanks for this, Carrie. And my question is, when we get our DAs, and there's always the section when there's submitters, and we have the list of what the submitter said and how it's addressed. And I wonder, does council, when we get those submissions, do we ever try, before we get to a point where there may be appeals, do we try during the approval process to consider what the submitters include in some of those and potentially include them in the overall conditions, because potentially we might ward off matters like this? Not always, we're never going to be always able to. It's just a question of instead of just saying how the conditions address the submitters' issues, do we ever actually take what the submitters say and consider including that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we really do try to take on board the submitters' concerns. Often they're adjoining owners, and they are the most affected by these applications. In this particular instance, the submitter wanted the access to come from the state-controlled road, and there was no way that we could do that because, as you're aware, the state has its own requirements about that. So we did try to make sure there are other impacts. And I guess the other thing is that as these matters progress, the submitters can often change their mind. So some of these things that are included here were never on the table the first time around. So it matures as it goes along.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? If there's no other questions, the motion before us then is that the report of the General Manager, Planning and Development Group on the regional development statistics for November 2024 be noted by council. Maybe we just put acting general manager in the motion to more reflect the position. The report of the acting general manager, planning and development group on the regional development statistics for November 2024 be noted by council. Have someone move? Moved by Councillor Trevor, seconded by Councillor Carey. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Carey. Item number 12, matters whose notice has been given and there's been nil advised. Item 13 is any other business council determines by resolution to be included in the agenda paper. That's general business. Any general business? If not, councillors, we move to item 14, which is the closing of the meeting to the public. And the reasons that for closing is this report concerns industrial matters affecting employees, matters that may directly affect the health and safety of an individual or a group of individuals, and legal advice. And therefore, it is recommended that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with sections 254J3B, industrial matters affecting employees, E, legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government, and F, matters that may directly affect the health and safety of an individual or a group of individuals of local government regulation 2012. So the motion is that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 254J3 of Local Government Regulations 2012 to consider the following item on the agenda. And the item is item 15.1, confidential acting chief executive officer monthly report. So that's the motion. Can I have someone move? Moved by Councillor Rebecca, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, John.
Just, uh,
Councillors, we resume the meeting having had the confidential session. The motion there before us then, councillors, for item 15.1 is that council note the acting chief executive officer's advice. Someone to move by Councillor Melissa, seconded by Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. We move then, councillors, to item number 16, which is group reports, and 16.1 is the Planning and Development Group Report, of which Carrie doesn't seem to be in the room just at the present. However, councillors, with your indulgence, quite happy to move to 16.2 with Jake Passier, the GM for Water and Waste Services. Jake, are you comfortable to step up to the plate there? Okay, 16.2. Welcome to GM Jake, and thank you for the updates through the wetter days over the break. We do appreciate being updated with what's happening. So, and to your team as well, who were doing a lot of work in that space during that time. Thank you, Jake.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, councillors. As the Mayor rightly has already indicated, Christmas is a busy time for water and waste services. We had significant rainfall over that period of time, as councillors might be aware, and that significant rainfall led to significant rises in dams such as Kubi Dam, which did overtop during the Christmas period. But not just that, councillors, we provide water services to 65,000 residents and waste services to 70,000 odd households. As well as that, we saw record numbers coming through the waste facilities, and I certainly applaud both our teams and the community for patience when dealing with some of the record numbers that we received through those facilities, and it's good to see the community working with council collaboratively to make sure that everybody remains calm and ensure that services continue in the most efficient manner as possible. We also, due to the rain, had significant pressures on our wastewater networks, and thanks to the team of plumbers and electricians and fitters who get out there and make sure that our sewage system continues to function even under some fairly immense pressure due to some of those highly intense and localised rainfalls. So by and by, the team, I think, over Christmas 2024 into New Year 2025 had a fairly hectic, but also had a very successful Christmas and New Year period, ensuring the impacts felt by the community were minimised. So I thank them very much for the hard work that they do. I'm happy to take the report as read. Council will note that there are some figures provided from the November period, simply because, as I said in the December meeting, that there wasn't sufficient time to finalise those figures prior to the release of the November report. But I'm more than happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much, Jake. Councillor Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much, Jake. And I'm sure we all absolutely are so grateful and appreciative of the team's work over Christmas. I don't think they got much of a break whatsoever, actually. I think there was a lot of hard work. So we're very grateful for that. And I want to pick up on what you were just saying about the lag in some of these figures, and we all know it, but it's probably just worth mentioning. If we go to attachment 2 of your report, the dashboard for the Cresbrook the Cresbrook Dam Safety Improvement Project, and if we look at the drawdown numbers, we got to 77.9% capacity as of December 1st. And then the heavens opened, and so that graph now will be up at about 100% again. And so I've got a couple of questions with that. The first is just in terms of relaying information to the public, and I know that you're on that and you're doing the media things, but I wondered if on Council's website for the Cresbrook Dam Safety Improvement Project, we would consider putting a link to the dashboard, because I think that is done really well and it would be helpful for people to get that visual little bit of information. I just flagged that, and I note that Brendan's in the room as well, Mayor, so one to flag. But my question with this, through you, Mayor, to the General Manager, we had a deadline, we have a deadline, and we've had this incredible amount of rain. All of our dams are full. And I know that council converses frequently with the dam safety regulator. And if we could just get some comment from you, General Manager, about contacting the dam safety regulator, given that the dams are full and the October 2025 deadline has been set for us, and what we're faced with now is a really difficult situation.
Thank you, Councillor Von Hoff, for the question. We have been in regular contact with the dam safety regulator, and in particular the challenges that this project has been facing. More recently, the dam level now progressing from, as it's in the report there, almost 78% now to above 85%. So we've seen a significant amount of water return into the dam. Those conversations are resulting in hopefully formal correspondence coming back from the dam regulator, acknowledging not just the challenges that council's facing, but also the progress the team has made. And I think it's important to understand that these projects are quite complex. They have significant engineering challenges, and being such critical infrastructure, pushing through as such or accelerating certain components is just not seen as an appropriate approach, considering the risks that come with a project such as this. So we're anticipating to get some formal correspondence around our ability to complete the project, understanding where we currently are within our current circumstances and where we're likely to be from the dam safety regulator imminently. I'm hopeful that we'll find certainly something by next meeting to have some formal correspondence from the regulator that might give council some, ease, and the community some ease around the realities that face this project and that deadline that was in the regulation around October 2025.
Thanks very much for that, Jake. And the hint you talked about accelerating the project, and that's not advisable. I mean, the hint is in his title, Dam Safety Regulator. We need to do this safely, so that's top of mind for everybody. My other question, if I might, Chair, is about those wastewater incidents over Christmas as a result of all the rain. And if we go to the report, page, I think it's page 3 of the group report, and we've got under wastewater regulations, the sewage pump station overflows reported for December 2024. And, usually we may have one of these when there's wet weather. We had so much rain, particularly, across the whole region, but particularly in the north and around our dam catchments. And you can see there, Crow's Nest, there were incidents reported the 11th, 17th, 18th, 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 30th, so quite a few incidents there. And, council for some time has been considering upgrading infrastructure there. And we've had an increase in population, and then we get wet weather like this. And I guess the question is a couple-fold. First of all, that planned infrastructure, would that eliminate these sort of incidents for Crow's Nest? And second of all, if that is the case, do these incidents change the prioritisation of getting that infrastructure work done around Crow's Nest?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question, and I'll answer it in two parts. In firstly, the response around if we were to spend the upgrades or the planned upgrades to Crow's Nest, which is a new wastewater treatment plant and subsequent conversion of some of the existing system, which is a CED system. So it relies on households having a septic system, and the discharge of that septic system is then what is collected by council and now transported to the currently transported to the Crow's Nest waste water facility. In short, no, these overflows are results of what we call infiltration into our network as a result of the significant rainfall event. And you'll notice that around those times is about equivalent to about the same time that Perseverance Dam accelerated its level and subsequently overflowed. So there was a significant amount of rainfall around Crow's Nest at that time. And what happens during those periods of time is our system is designed to withstand what we call 5 times what would be the average dry weather flow. But during periods of intense rainfall, we find that we get significant amounts of infiltration, and that's due to a number of factors. And predominantly, infiltration is reduced through programs such as sewer relining or sewer replacement programs. So we have a significant amount of budget, about $1 to $2 million a year, that we spend across the entire water and waste, or the wastewater network, on preventative measures like sewer replacement and relining. As Council may remember, through the last round of significant rainfall that 2 years ago, there was significant overflows in our southern regions due to, again, infiltration into a network. So we have an approach that looks to try and target those systems that are the most susceptible to infiltration, and just due to the nature of the intense rainfall that occurred over Crow's Nest, we saw that the system's capacity was essentially exceeded. So that's why they're called a wet weather overflow. And as councillors know, when you get significant amounts of rainfall, an engineering solution always has a limitation, and so there will always be instances under extreme rainfall where we do unfortunately release water infiltration, or when that capacity is exceeded, it gets released into the environment. And we're licensed to do that. We report that to the department, we take samples, all those bits and pieces occur, and it's all done in accordance with our environmentally relevant activity. So in short, no, but we are working with our teams and our asset management plans to better target networks that are more susceptible to I&I, and make sure that we get the best bang for our respective dollar when it comes to those renewal and replacement programs.
Terrific, thanks. Thanks. Just before I go to you, Councillor Bill, picking up on Councillor Rebecca, your idea to have the dashboard, the Crestbrook safety app, which I think has got some merit. Jake, in your correspondence to us in regard to updates on things, you did say that there was going to be some communication, or monthly communication, whatever that may be, into the local community. Now that there is a Crow's Nest publication, perhaps that's something Brendan would do. That might hit on the localised area, keeping in mind that this is everywhere, but it might be something worthy of consideration. As far as on the dashboard on the website is concerned, again, it's lag time for when we get it to what it would be. And I think if I'm looking at it, I want it more accurate to that. So maybe it's more that monthly with the heights of the dams and what that means reflective. So can we leave it with Jake and the media team as to what that may be, if that's okay?
Absolutely, Mr Mayor. What I might be able to do is just avail council that in line with, I think, last month's resolution to get some more data out to the community more frequently. We're working very closely with CCE. We have a position within the Alliance that we're looking to fill to ensure that not just council's requests, but as the project transitions into more of a finalisation design and subsequent construction phases, that information is provided to the community that is accurate and in a timely and appropriate. So it's just a case of over Christmas having resources around to fulfil council's requirements, but we anticipate that we should be able to see something by next month, if not the month after, that's more regular, more accurate and more appropriate.
That's very good. I know that there'd be certainly some state members locally here that'll be keen on those updates as well. It'll be quite useful for us in conversations. Councillor Bill? And Councillor Melissa.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Jake, if I could go back to the CED scheme at Crow's Nest, further to Councillor Rebecca's inquiry. As my understanding, there's no large sewer mains out there that need relining. They're all PVC smaller mains that are part of the CED scheme. So points of ingression for stormwater, yeah, that goes without saying. And I'd say there's probably a proliferation of those in respect to a normal sewerage system, which is adding to the problem. But also, it's my understanding that it is way past its use-by date. It was never ever designed for the population that's there now. So I'm a little concerned that I agree with Councillor Rebecca around prioritisation, particularly when we've got those spills in catchment areas for potable water supply. And I think yeah, I don't think it can be compared to a spend on sewer relining across the region. I really, this has been an issue, and record will speak for itself about Crow's Nest being a hotspot as far as these sorts of overflows, simply because of the way the network's designed. And I'm not the engineer, Jake, you are, but I have local knowledge before this council and successions of councils about, you know, the need for upgrade. It was designed for a particular purpose at a particular point in time. It's way past that now.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. In relation to your comments around the network as itself has a combination of both conventional sewage systems and CED schemes. So where council has looked to an approved new development in Crow's Nest that has converted or invested in upgrading the standard or previous CED systems into a conventional sewage system, there are still components of the Crow's Nest system that are CED, and you are correct, they are smaller pipes which are quite aged, and in respect to the prioritisation of the significant upgrades that are required to convert Crow's Nest to a CED, as well as upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, in respect to the prioritisation of that, it is Water and Waste's current second highest priority in relation to the first highest priority, which we've just had significant conversations about, and notwithstanding Council's ability to fund all of its priorities, we're working very closely with Anne-Marie and the team, as well as the investment review panel to ensure that, or investment review team to make sure that those prioritisations occur. So it is planned to commence imminently as soon as there is sufficient capacity, noting that it's a circa $40 million project to invest in that wastewater scheme, and it's not something that can be done piece by piece. There's a significant capital investments required up front to ensure that it remains functional, and that ultimately the service that is provided to those residents of Crow's Nest can continue to be provided without impact during the process of the upgrade.
Thanks. Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Chair, through you. Just a comment, actually, Jake. First of all, I'll concur with comments of Councillor Von Hoff with the team over Christmas. Outstanding work. Thank you. But just a comment about the smart water meters. Can I just say they have been my saviour. When we moved into our house 12 months ago, and our first water bill was $900 because there was a leak and we didn't have a smart water meter. So I nearly died. And then on the weekend, I received an email and several texts to say that there's another water leak. So I've been able to get the plumbers onto it and hopefully won't get a $900 bill this time. So the communication from TRC with the smart water meter app and the meter itself has been outstanding. So it's potentially saving us many hundreds of dollars. So just want to say great work. And I know they cost the community a lot of money, but I think in the long run it'll save us a lot of money and a lot of water. And yeah, thanks.
If I may, Mr Mayor, thank you, Councillor. I just want to say I thank you very much for your comments, but I can't take all of the thanks. I must also extend, that must be extended to our rates team as well, who work very hard with the water team to make sure that any communications around billing and those sort of things are done so in a prompt and appropriate manner. So I acknowledge your comments, and the team's very thankful for them. They work very hard, and as you said, we're starting to get to a point in that project where we have the majority of Toowoomba residents currently are being serviced by a smart meter, and we look to try and ensure that we can get all of our residents on a smart meter as soon as we possibly can. So thank you.
The app is so good. Like, the app is really easy to use, easy to access. So I recommend anyone that's got a smart water meter to start using the app. It's excellent. And it actually shows you how much water you're using. So I've got a bit of a challenge with my husband to see how low we can get it down.
It's good, bit of incentive. Okay, so Jake, is there anything else you'd like to add or any other questions? There's no other questions, councillors. The motion before us is that the Water and Waste Services Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Rebecca, seconded by Councillor Melissa. Those in favour, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Jake. Councillors, we move in reverse order, but 16.1, and welcome Acting GM Carrie back to the speaking area. Carrie, for your group report for planning and development. Thank you, and welcome back to you again.
Good morning again, councillors. The Planning and Development Group report is taken as read, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Any questions, councillors, in regard to the group report? Councillor Trevor?
Just regarding architecture and heritage, you're obviously suffering some vacancy issues there. Is that on the mend, or are we still suffering?
Yeah, we do have a number of vacancies there, and recruitment is underway. We've got some positions that need to be advertised. So yes, there's definitely some holes there, but we are working hard to fill them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Any other questions, councillors, in regard to the group report? If there's not, then the motion before us is that the Planning and Development Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Carey, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We move then, councillors, to item 16.3, which is the Infrastructure Services Group report. Welcome to GM Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Happy New Year to all. Councillors, the Infrastructure Services Group report for December has been tabled and is there taken as read. Obviously, a wet December, having impacts across the region, but in different ways. So happy to take any questions.
Councillor Trevor.
Just, Mike, I know we've had some discussions, and over the Christmas New Year break, I've had quite a few emails from people along Glencoe Yalanga Road. Can you just give us an update of what's happening or the progress there on that?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. As noted on the second page of the group report, there's a lot of work happening across the lower order roads program, including the design of Glencoe Yalanga Road. That design is near completion. It's under detailed review at the moment, and at this stage, all going well, is planned to probably get underway construction-wise and weather permitting sometime in March. So probably second half of March is my guess at this stage.
Thank you. I think that'll be a relief to a lot of people out that way. I know there's 2 million, I wish it was 200 million, but 2 million each year. If a certain amount isn't spent in 1 year, does it carry over to the following year?
Only if it's formally done as a carryover or via council at budget time, actually taken across or increased. So, or at budget reviews, sometimes we readjust at budget reviews. So it can be managed, but council's given a commitment by resolution 2 million a year for 5 years at this stage. So the aim is for the program to obviously be delivered, and as has been discussed with council.
Thank you. And I guess every year there'll be another road or a multitude of roads that will come up that need to be reformed, upgraded, whatever. But thank you for your answers.
Thank you. Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Mike. I meant to email you this, so please take on notice. And I just wanted, I've been up and down the Toowoomba bypass quite a bit lately, and there's still a great deal of work being done, and part of it eastbound is still down to 1 lane. So do we have you received any updates from Main Roads about where it's at? Happy to take it on notice.
Yeah, not directly, though for the general public, ourselves as well, the updates can be found on TMR's website. They should have a level of update happening in respect to what's happening with the Toowoomba bypass. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Rebecca?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Through you. Thanks for this, Mike. Happy New Year. Mike, over the Christmas period with all of the rain, we obviously, in your report, talks about some of the falls that we received, but to the north of us in South Burnett, they really had a rough time, and they've had a lot of road damage in particular. And Mayor Duff there has been sort of going around the region and just drawing attention to the state of the roads as a result of that flooding. When there are incidents like that, and in our area, I assume that they'll be asking and seeking some of that disaster funding and flood recovery funding as well. Does the pie get bigger, or do other areas get less money as other areas get more money? How does this work, and what's the impact for Toowoomba region when we've got a situation ourselves and then compounded by what's happened for South Burnett too, which I really feel for? They've absolutely, their roads really are in a terrible state, poor things.
We're in the process of requesting activation under the DRFA, the Disaster Recovery Funding arrangements for December. We're probably going to be in at least an order of, well over $1 million worth of damage. And you can see in the report there some of the damage that's come through. Obviously, that would hit our operational budget bottom line. There is $1 million trigger. This is that we're up for the first $1 million in any case. But as you can see from those rainfall events, Yarraman and Kuya, which are towards South Burnett, obviously got over 300 mil through December. So substantial amount of the damage that we've had in December has been in the northern part of the region. The bucket, so to speak, we're very fortunate in Australia the way the funding is. It's 25% state, 75% federal once it gets an approved event, other than what we've got to put in from a trigger point of view. So, but it does sort of have that operational impact. That said, when you have these wet periods, obviously the road network itself does suffer right across the board.
So I guess the question is, from a federal perspective, when there's multiple disasters, and there has been and will continue to be, does that fund grow to support that, or is it a fixed amount that the federal government have, and the state government for that matter, that they have on an annual basis that they distribute?
I'll talk very generally. The way I understand at the state and federal levels, they allow a certain budget each year for natural disaster, because I think in Queensland it's something in progress in the order of $11 billion worth of disaster events in progress at the moment. At some point of level of investment, could even be a bit more than that now.
That's across Australia, right?
No, that's Queensland alone. And so, the way I understand in Queensland's got to be up for each event, for their trigger points for the states, I think 250 million. So they've got to get to 250, and then they can start calling on the federal government input. So that's when it comes to your state and national road networks and different things like that. Yeah, it's the government, and then year on year that gets reviewed Treasury in Canberra has worked with the states over probably the last decade in trying. Canberra always tries to have a number that they can put in the budget each year. They try to work to that, but obviously they go through their mid-year budget review, and also obviously each year, because it does take a bit of time for the disaster happens, and there's the emergent works, and then there's everybody has to do the assessments and the submissions and stuff. So it takes a good, probably best part of 12 months to really start defining what a cost of a disaster actually does cost. So that information just keeps, continuously just feeding into state and federal budgets.
So, okay, there is a fixed amount, but it grows according to disasters, effectively. Okay, any other questions for ISG? For Mike? Other questions? The motion, sorry Carol, did you have, no. The motion before us is that the Infrastructure Services Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mike. Very much indeed.
Thank you, councillors.
Good on you. Acting GM for Environment and Community Services, Paul Reynolds. Thank you, Paul. Welcome to you. Given that it was Hugh would have been the author of this one, wouldn't he? Given Hugh was the author and you're now in, so anyway, we'll do our best.
Good morning, councillors. Happy to take the report as read and answer any questions you may have in relation to the report.
Councillors, any questions in regard to the Environment Community report? If there's no questions, Councillor James.
Just a comment if I can. Thanks, Paul, for your report. You've done well. Just probably a mention, I think, as well, I think, to all of our staff and all of those community groups that are involved, obviously with Australia Day coming up. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that's gone into this to make the celebration what it is right across our region. So a lot of those things happening across our region there. The other couple of things I just wanted to quickly mention is we, this Friday at 5 o'clock, we still have expressions of interest out for the Multicultural Advisory Committee and the Youth Advisory Committee. So again, encourage people to get involved with that. And whilst on that note, I'd just like to take this opportunity, I think, to pay tribute to Roberto Garcia, our multicultural officer who's involved with TRC for 14 years, and obviously has been a part of a lot of really big things in this community, not just this council, but I think it's obviously been his passion, his compassion, his understanding, his sense of humour, and just his willingness to be involved in as many things that's been so well received across our multicultural community, which has obviously led to so many great partnerships, collaborations, relationships, both obviously internally with council, but obviously also with community, and and being a part of obviously the time when we declared a refugee welcome zone to the initiation of a multicultural advisory committee. So I think a good opportunity just to thank him for his services, because again, I think, as I said, his smile and obviously his personality is quite infectious, and one that has said that many people have obviously benefited from. And on the same token, obviously it's a welcome on board to Fatima Zahra Bilella, or FZ, as she's more affectionately known, who fills in that role. And I think that's an exciting addition for us here at TRC. Was a member of our initial Multicultural Advisory Committee and obviously well entrenched in that community. So wishing her all the best. And then at the same time, as I said, just an opportunity, I think, to give a mention and thank you to Roberto Garcia for so much great service. And I'm sure he won't be lost across the community, but did so many great things. And with that, I'm happy to move if there's no further questions.
Okay, you happy to move that, James? A comment, Councillor Carroll?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Last week, by accident, one member of our community in Cambodia walked past a capsule that had been put into the ground on Australia Day 2000. Very historic event. It was before I got on council. I got on council in March in the year of 2000. So the capsule was buried, found by accident. It's going to be opened at the Australia Day celebrations at Cambodia on Sunday. And whilst Kate and her team have been trying to organise this, along with, we've got Michael Eastwell from ISG Construction Maintenance that was there to bury the capsule. So it's going to be dug up on Friday, but it'll be opened. It's in a box apparently, and then in a canister. So whilst we're struggling to find people that we think are applicable, there are 2 people who were on council at that time that will be attending, I hope, but I'd like to issue an open invitation to anybody from the district or the area who has some interest to be at the Cambodia Recreation Grounds on Sunday at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very historic Olympic year, as you might imagine, 2000. Well, it was found because none of our information was carried forward to here for some reason. I don't know why. It wasn't digital. It was all recorded by hand. So for some reason, we all missed it. I wasn't there on the council at the time. So thank goodness they did, because they looked at the plaque that was on it and it said to be opened on Australia Day 2025. So we're very fortunate that that person looked at that. It's at 8 o'clock. Thank you. So after a free breakfast, I suggest it'll be closer to 8:30, but we don't know what's in it. We can only imagine. So it's very exciting, I think. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Very good. Councillor Carroll, look forward to seeing what's in there. That'd be great, actually. Good history. 25 years. Any more questions for Paul? We have got a mover, Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Tim. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Paul. Okay, thanks very much. We move then to item 16.5, which is corporate services, which is substantively our last item for today. And welcome back, GM Anne-Marie.
Good morning again, councillors. 1 minute left in the morning. I'm happy to take the report as read and take any questions.
Thanks very much, Anne-Marie. Any questions in regard to corporate services, councillors? There's no questions. The motion before us, the Corporate Services Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Anne-Marie, very much indeed. Councillors, the only last item is item 17, which is the conclusion of the meeting. And so can I thank you all for not only your attendance, but your input. Again, I think there's some learnings for us around particularly the start of the meeting, and we can go back and have a look at that at your leisure as well to see how we can potentially do things a little better. And that's what I think 2025 should be focused on, is around making sure we continually improve, and hurdles that may crop up from time to time, we work out a way to go over them, through them, round them, or crash straight around them. And that's the go. So it's all about opportunities. That's what 2025 is, and we're looking forward to it. So thank you very much. That concludes the meeting.